At a period of most wonderful transition, which tends rapidly to accomplish that great end to which indeed all history point, the realization of the unity of mankind. Prince Albert, 1851.
American satirist Mark Twain coined it the Gilded Age, and it began in the latter half of the 19th century. By the turn of the new century, it had blossomed into a social gospel, a philosophy for living. Man, through his mastery of technology, was on the verge of creating heaven on earth. In short, he was about to best nature, perhaps even outdo God.
The world was changing very, very rapidly. It was making people live longer, it was bringing more happiness to people, and people tended to believe that and looked upon technology as a salvation or a panacea for everything.
The industry of shipbuilding was the space race of the infant century. By the late 18 and early 1900s, competition among shipping companies for the lucrative transatlantic passenger trade had become intense. In his elegant London offices, J. Bruce Ismay, managing director of the White Star Line, had reason to worry. His father, Thomas Henry Ismay, had turned a bankrupt shipping company into a business that for a time dominated the Atlantic lanes. But a recent rate war had nearly ruined the industry, allowing the American tycoon J.P. Morgan to buy up several well-known lines, including White Star, consolidating them into a monster trust, the IMM, International Mercantile Marine. And Ismay knew that Morgan expected a return on his investment.
Bruce Ismay basically inherited all of his money from his father, who had built the line, and it was a rather pampered individual. He personally was not the kind of Englishman that would endear himself to Americans, a cold, aloof person. They would see him as. He was very meticulous, rather demanding, could be sometimes overexcitable, but he was a very good businessman. He was always willing to spend money on making it better.
Ismay knew it would take more than money to best the Cunard Line's new four-funnel beauties, the Lusitania and Mauritania, the fastest passenger liners on the ocean. It would take a dream. The dream would take shape one evening at the hope of Lord Pirrie, owner of the Belfast shipping firm Harland and Wolff. Over after-dinner drinks, Ismay and Pirrie first envisioned the three monster ships that they hoped would win back the passenger trade for White Star.
The Olympic, the Titanic would follow the Olympic, and then following the Titanic was a third ship, originally supposed to be called Gigantic. But unlike the Cunard ships, which were known for their speed, the White Star Line went out for spaciousness.
Nothing was going to be spared in expense. Nothing in terms of accommodations, in terms of dining, in terms of luxury and comfort. And they felt that the market had changed to a point where tourists were enjoying these kind of things, and it was going to be an important addition to these new liners that they were going to build.
It wasn't only the wealthiest passengers that White Star hoped to attract with its new mammoth liners. The booming immigrant traffic had become the bread and butter of the transatlantic shipping companies, and bigger ships could carry more bodies in third class, known as steerage.
It was a period of great optimism. That optimism showed in the migration to the New World. Thousands and thousands of people were viewing America as the place where dreams were realized, and the Titanic was built as much for that immigrant as it was for the first-class passenger.
And so, with J.P. Morgan's ample bankroll behind them, Ismay and Pirrie set Harland and Wolff's best designers to creating the plans that would become the largest vessels in the world.
One of the difficulties of creating ships this big is they had to build special machinery to even put them together, including special floating cranes. They had to, in Harland and Wolff, clear out spaces for 3 ships in which to build 2. On the other side of the ocean, in the United States, America didn't have piers long enough to even dock them. And so there was a controversy over that, too. There was a lot of mixed feelings in the shipping world about creating something so large so quickly.
Nevertheless, by 1909, the Harland and Wolff shipyard was alive with the sounds of construction. First of the Olympic, then 15 weeks later, the enormous steel skeleton that was to become the Royal Mail steamer Titanic. The chain of events that would change this complacent age forever had been set in motion.
I can well remember one Sunday afternoon my father saying to me, "Johnny," he called me Johnny, "you tell your Sunday school teacher that you'll not be at Sunday school next Sunday, for your dad's going to take you down to see the Titanic at Harland and Wolff." I remember looking up at this big steel hulk, and my father, he described to me how someday they would take away all the timber props that held up the ship.